The other day, I watched the brand new Amazon Prime movie Jackpot, starring Awkwafina, Simu Liu, and
John C.
Now, this movie has me extremely conflicted, because on the one hand, I did enjoy it, and I did have some fun with it, but on the other hand, I absolutely hate this movie, simply because I feel it squanders an incredible premise on what I consider a very mid movie. Because let's not get anything twisted here. Jackpot is not one of the greatest movies ever made. It's one of those movies that you probably put on in the background while you're doing chores or cooking dinner. Something that's good enough that it keeps your attention so you're not bored while you're doing your other tasks, but something that's bad enough that you don't have a problem that your full attention isn't dedicated to the screen. That is where Jackpot lies in the vast infinitesimum of movie critiques. But with all that being said, I have my problems with this movie. I have my likes for this movie. And I'm going to take y'all through the movie from beginning to end, explain what I liked, what I didn't like, and explain why this movie has me so conflicted by the end of the video. So, scan your thumbprint on that grand lottery ticket, lock in, and let's talk about Jackpot follows the story of Katie Kim, played by Awkwafina. She is a former childhood actress that took many years off to look after her dying mother, who recently passed away. Now she's returned to LA to rekindle the career that she once had. However, due to movie shenanigans and plot conveniences, she ends up entering a competition called the Grand Lottery, and she wins. But there's a catch. The Grand Lottery has a specific rule to it. If you are the winner of it naturally, you must survive 24 hours with every person who's lost the Grand Lottery being able to kill you to steal your prize, to steal your jackpot. And throughout the course of the movie, as Awkwafina is trying to survive, everyone trying to kill her, she ends up meeting
John C.
who runs a private protection agency for protecting people who win the Grand Lottery. And the two of them make a deal, and he decides to start protecting her throughout the course of the film. And the movie then follows the two of them fending off everybody in LA trying to kill them throughout the next 24 hours so that she can win the money. And that's more or less Jackpot. So the movie opens up with us getting this title crawl, giving us some background information and lore, as well as some rules behind the Grand Lottery itself. And then we're thrown into this flashback of a previous contestant in the Grand Lottery competition fighting to survive during the next 24 hours. We see him get into a couple of fights with some civilians, as well as then breaking into this woman's house as she's taking care of her grandchild. He asks the woman if she knows who he is to find out if she's a part of the Grand Lottery competition. She says no, which was a blatant lie. And then she ends up killing him when his guard is down, winning the competition. And we learn that the moment you kill someone in this competition, it completely ends and you instantly become the Grand Lottery winner, which I don't particularly like that, because I assumed going into this movie that the Grand Lottery competition operated that whoever kills the owner of the winning ticket becomes the new owner of the winning ticket and has to survive the rest of the time that they would have had to survive. So hypothetically speaking, if you killed someone 12 hours into the competition, then you would become the new winner and would then have to survive the next 12 hours. That's at least the way I took it when I came into this movie. But that's not really the case, and when we get to it later, I'll explain why I have a problem with this. But that's how the movie opens up, and then we are flash forwarded to the present, and we meet Awkwafina's character taking a bus back into LA. While we're on this bus, we run into the first major problem that I have with this movie, and that's the fact that Awkwafina plays the main character, Katie Kim. Now, it's not for the same reason that a lot of other people hate Awkwafina. I know a lot of people just hate Awkwafina for some reason. I don't know the lady, so I don't really have any personal beef with her, and I don't hate her acting style, and she's never been in anything so major that it's really affected my experience of the movie until now. You see, the character of Katie Kim is portrayed as being a young woman, and Awkwafina is 36 years old. Now, that's not to say 36 is old or anything like that, but they portray the character of Katie as being like this Gen Z 20-something-year-old based off of everything that she's doing in the movie. She lives with some crappy roommates in an Airbnb. She has like no money in her bank account. She's going to become a struggling actress. Like, everything they set up for her character makes her feel like she's supposed to be in her 20s, especially with her dialogue. And even within this first scene on the bus, we do get the feeling that she's supposed to be younger, because while we're on this bus, there is an abusive dad verbally abusing his daughter because she failed an audition. So Katie takes it upon herself to pretend to be a police officer and threatens the guy that she will arrest him for child abuse if he keeps being a prick, which was really cool, and I like that about her character. Then she goes back and sits next to the old woman that she was originally sitting next to before she moved to oppress this guy. And then the old woman says this.
Cop.
Ma'am, she is 36 years old. How old do you think cops should be? And that's what I'm talking about. Like, they bring up the fact that Awkwafina is supposed to be really young. And having seen cops in real life, there are cops in their 20s. So the idea that this old woman looked at 36-year-old Awkwafina and was like, you look too young to be a police officer. It's like,
what? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
And it just throws me off the whole movie, seeing her go through this, because I keep thinking to myself that she's supposed to be like 20-something. But then I keep looking at almost 40-year-old Awkwafina, and it just really bothers me. It's just really bad casting here. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I don't even know why she was cast in the role, because if they brought her here for star power, I feel like she's the weakest person on this roster, because, as I mentioned, this movie also stars Simu Liu, who most people know as Shang-Chi, and John C., who people know from a litany of things, most recently being Peacemaker. Awkwafina is the lowest bracket star on this list, so I don't really understand why she was here, especially since I feel like you could have cast someone that was younger, maybe even a no-name person, to fit in this role. Like, it's just really weird that you decided to cast someone that's almost 40 in a role where they're supposed to be someone that's, like, really young. And if Awkwafina's not supposed to be this young in the movie, then you could have fooled me. After this weird interaction with the old lady, Katie realizes that old woman stole her watch. And
Stole my watch!
I thought this was going to be important in the movie, like maybe it was a family heirloom or something, but no, it was just a watch, and the joke was just, haha, funny old woman pickpocket. And then later on in the movie, that same old woman comes back and is like, hey, your watch keeps bad time. And it's like, okay, I guess. Then Katie starts noticing that people outside of the bus in LA are freaking out. People are trying to rush out of the city. You've got people getting into fights with each other, looting stores, and she's like, what the hell is going on? So she asks the bus driver what's happening, and he just tells her it's the grand lottery. And she doesn't know what that means, so she's just like, okay. Then we fast forward and we see Katie finally arrives at her Airbnb where we meet her roommates. Oh, sorry, not roommates, her Airbnb hosts, because they need to make that distinction. I guess it's supposed to be a joke, but I don't know, maybe I don't get it because I don't live in LA and I usually stay at hotels instead of Airbnbs, but okay. Regardless, we're introduced to the two Airbnb hosts. Shadi, who is supposed to be a representation of girls who are really into crystals and astrology and all that kind of stuff.
Word. Gotta manifest the stuff you want or else bad stuff's gonna happen to you, dude.
Then we're introduced to her boyfriend, DJ.
DJ?
And I won't lie, I did kind of chuckle at this scene because DJ slaps Katie, believing that she's an expert hand-to-hand combatant because he looked at her bag that says Fighting Academy on it, only to realize that it's Stage Fighting Academy. That made me chuckle. Until later on in the movie, because now I've come to hate this joke due to events that we see in the future. But nevertheless, the only thing of importance that really happens in this whole scene is that we find out Shadi and DJ are a part of the Grand Lottery. Then we fast forward to the next day. Katie wakes up to go to her audition for some acting role. I don't even remember what it was for, if I'm being honest with you. And she realizes that all of her clothes are covered in crap. I don't mean that as like oh, there's stuff on them. No, I mean literally covered in crap. It's a poop joke. Yeah, apparently the Airbnb that she's living in has poop leak from the ceiling, which, like, what is this, a movie for 5-year-olds? Like, what is going on here? But because her clothes are all ruined, she needs to borrow clothes from her Airbnb host, Shadi, and Shadi allows her to do so for a fee, which is supposed to be a joke because everybody's about that bag, I guess. And she gets the clothes, and this is how Awkwafina ends up joining the Grand Lottery. We fast forward to her going to the audition, and while at the audition, she sticks her hand in her pocket to grab her monologue, and she grabs a Grand Lottery ticket. And she perfectly grabbed it to scan the thumbprint on it, actively initiating her into the competition. Now, I'm gonna pause right there because this is a huge plot hole in the movie that really bothers me. So you mean to tell me that Shadi and DJ, these people who have lived in California for God knows how long, that have planned to enter the Grand Lottery, not only did Shadi buy a Grand Lottery ticket, but she didn't scan her thumbprint on the ticket to lock herself into the competition, then proceeded to leave it in clean clothes, mind you. She left it in the pocket of clean clothes that she then rented to Katie, who then took it, put her hand in the pocket, and perfectly scanned her finger on the grand lottery ticket. Do you know how much fucking plot, contrivance, and convenience had to happen for all this to happen? You want me to believe that this person, who, mind you, the grand lottery prize is $3.6 billion. You mean to tell me that this woman went to the store, bought a ticket with her boyfriend? They both bought tickets, mind you, and I'll get to that later.
You lie! You lie!
And she just took the ticket and put it in her pocket without locking herself into the competition? What sense does that make? That's ridiculously stupid. Like, why didn't Katie just get a ticket herself? She could have just bought a ticket without knowing what the grand lottery was for. She could have made a comment that it seems a little unnecessary that she has to scan a super high-tech lottery ticket because she doesn't know anything about the grand lottery. I would have bought that more than this ridiculous list of plot contrivances to get to her being in the movie. Like, why is this like this? It's so unnecessarily extra. But whatever, she accidentally enters the grand lottery right before they're about to call the winner, and as I mentioned earlier when I told you about the synopsis, she wins. And after bombing her audition, in which we get exposited some details, we learn that her mother died. She was a former child actress that was famous for doing a commercial about knockoff SpaghettiOs called. And then she leaves, believing that everything is sucky, and then everyone immediately tries to kill her. And she's freaking out because she doesn't know what's going on. She's very confused. She's just trying to survive. And this is where I have another problem with the movie. This movie has been building up to the reveal of the grand lottery, but we already know what it is. We had an entire intro flashback with a whole title crawl that told us all of the information about the grand lottery. So when we get to this point where Katie's like, oh my god, everybody's trying to kill me. I don't understand why everybody's trying to kill me. And she's been suspicious the whole movie, not understanding why everyone's so hyped about the grand lottery while everybody's freaking out. We already know this. We're just sitting here for like 10 to 15 minutes watching a character get to the same point of knowledge where we are. We're essentially waiting for the actual movie to start. And there's an easy way to fix this. Just take out that intro sequence, because all of the information we learn in that intro sequence, we learn throughout the movie from John Cena. I'm gonna stop putting that meme in there now. But yeah, John Cena's character, Noel, is a guard who's aware of the grand lottery, and he ends up teaming up with Awkwafina, and he tells her everything that's going on in the movie. So why did we need an intro sequence that told us information that somebody is going to tell us later? That's so redundant. Like, did you think I wouldn't pick it up watching the movie? How stupid do you think people watching movies are, Hollywood? What's going on here? Back to Katie. Katie's still trying to survive, everyone trying to kill her. She ends up traveling to the first floor of the building where her audition was being held, and she unfortunately runs into a karate studio. They then try to kill her. One of them throws her through a wall into a yoga studio that is a female class, and she's like, oh my goodness, ladies, people are trying to kill me, please help. And I actually did find the scene kind of funny because she thinks she's going to find some level of female solidarity and they're going to look after her. But then they all try and kill her because they're all failed members in the grand lottery competition and they want to get their money as well. But in her perspective, I don't know why she thought this would work, because the first people that tried to kill Katie was a group of women. So I don't know why she thought other women would protect her when women have already failed her today. But that's besides the point. She continues bobbing and weaving, holding her own, defending herself against all of these people. And let's circle back around to that joke where DJ slapped her earlier in the movie and she says she has no self-defense skills and terrible reflexes. How is she defending herself exactly? Because the movie specifically brought up that she's bad at defending herself and shows she has bad reflexes from when DJ slapped her. So, like, how is she surviving being jumped by, like, 20 to 30 people here? I guess I'm not supposed to think about it like that. Whatever. Nitpicking here. I guess we can just move on. Because, look, John Cena's here. He jumped through the ceiling. Why did he do that? I don't know. They kind of tease that his office is in this building on a different floor, but we never actually see him in his office from what I remember, so I don't know if his office was above this and he jumped down, or he followed Katie and tracked her into the karate room and then broke through the ceiling. Regardless, it's a ridiculous and over-the-top way to enter his character, and I actually enjoyed it, so I'm gonna let it slide. We get this fun interaction between John Cena's character Noel and Katie, where he offers her 5 free saves in order to protect her from everyone trying to kill her. And as he's counting down the 5 different people he's saving her from, he's telling her to contemplate hiring him as her bodyguard for the day so she can survive the grand lottery competition. And then he threw in 1 free save for free because he's such a nice guy. And eventually, Katie does sign the contract, making him her official bodyguard. And then we get the only really good action sequence in this movie where John Cena straps Katie to his back with like this weird belt thing and then fights off the yoga people, the actresses, and the karate people to protect Katie, and then the 2 of them escape. And yes, I did say the only really fun action sequence. We do have another action sequence after this that was okay, but this is probably the best one in the movie, which for an action comedy is not good. However, we get a brief moment of reprieve where John Cena exposits all of the information that we already know to Katie to get her up to speed on what the grand lottery competition is. And this is when we get into a flaw that I have with the character of Katie. Katie does not want to be in the grand lottery competition. The entire movie, from this point on, up until the credits roll in the movie, Katie does not want to win the prize of the grand lottery. And I think that is really goddamn stupid. Because there is not a sane person on this planet that would pass up $3.6 billion. Even if you're the richest man on the planet, $3.6 billion is a lot of goddamn money. And the fact that this entire movie, Katie's like, this is too much of a hassle. I don't want to deal with people trying to kill me. I just want to quit the grand lottery competition. Which, coincidentally, there is a way to quit the grand lottery competition. You just have to leave LA, which is absolutely stupid and not worth it. Because in order to leave LA, you first have to win the competition, in which case everyone's going to be trying to kill you, and then you would have to leave the city with everyone trying to kill you. If you're going to have to survive everyone trying to kill you anyway, you might as well play to win. It's so pointless that Katie spends this entire movie trying to survive people trying to kill her to get out of LA, especially since so much time has passed as the movie goes on that you eventually reach a point where you're like, girl, there's so little time left. Just win the competition. It's $3.6 billion. But regardless, this moment of reprieve and this little bit about Katie being stupid for the first time about winning this ridiculous amount of money is short-lived because they again get attacked by a bunch of people. This car chase is a little bit fun. It's not as cool as the fight scene inside of the yoga/karate studio, but, you know, it is what it is, and we get to see that John Cena has a gun that allows him to shoot people with a wasp stinger that paralyzes them. And also, no one dies in this movie. This is something I noticed in this scene. John Cena kicks this woman out of a car into construction equipment, and then at the end of the movie, she shows back up and she's perfectly fine. And I don't like this, because this movie's already rated R. Granted, it's rated R for foul language, but if you're already rated R, you might as well go all the way. Have blood, guts, and gore. This movie feels like it was made to be PG-13, but they put so many curse words in the script that it had to be rated R. And it's like, well, you already crossed the line, so then just give me the gore and violence. If you were going to have them curse this much, you should have expected it to be rated R and just went all of the way. So why? Nevertheless, wrapping up this action sequence, Katie decides to be stupid again. She abandons John Cena, who she, A, is contractually obligated to pay if she wins the grand lottery competition, and B, the man who has been saving her life for like the past, 5-10 minutes or so from all these people trying to kill her. She decides that she's going to leave, and the reason for this is that she has trust issues that gets explored in a little bit, but, this man saved your life, and you signed a contract that he has to protect you. So, like, I don't know, I feel like you have a better chance staying with him than on your own, because you don't know how to fight, nor have you been in LA longer than today, so you don't know how to get to the exit. So, what's the plan here, lady? Now, Katie continues on the run, fleeing from John Cena and trying to flee from everybody. However, a little nugget of information we get added in the Grand Lottery competition here is that there is a drone that I believe they said every 15 minutes pings the location of the winner so that everyone has an equal opportunity to find them and kill them to get the money, which I thought was a really good idea. And Katie gets pinged. She then hides inside of this mannequin shop being run by the black guy from The Office. Yeah, I don't remember his name. I watched The Office like one time all the way through, and it's been many years since that happened, so I'm sorry I don't remember your name. Office fans, please don't kill me. I'm sorry. However, Katie is now hiding in this mannequin shop, and she gets a call from Shotty and DJ. And Shotty's like, hey girl, so like, where you at? I'm just trying to meet up with you. I saw all the craziness, and I just want to help you out. And Awkwafina's like, oh, this is a trap. And she's like, what? No, it totally isn't. I'm not trying to kill you to win $3.6 billion. Like, why would anyone do that? You're totes crazy. I hated doing every minute of that, but that's basically what happens here. And she ends up figuring out where Katie is because one of the mannequins makes a sound, so she recognizes the mannequin sound because her and DJ had sex in there while they were open and got banned like a week ago. And I'm just like, was this supposed to be funny? Like, just... what? So fast forwarding a bit, Shotty and DJ arrive. Katie fights off the two of them. She tries to escape, and then she runs back into John Cena because John Cena is actually a good guy who wants to protect Katie, and he's also her, security guard because she signed the contract. So he saves her, they escape again, and they're like, okay, we need to get you to a safe house so that you can be protected for the rest of the time and win the Grand Lottery. And she's like, I don't know anywhere like that. He's like, are you sure? And then she remembers a conversation that she had earlier on in the movie. I left this part out. It's important to the story, but I just didn't feel like talking about it then. Katie takes an Uber from her Airbnb to the audition studio, and the Uber driver randomly tells her about the fact that Machine Gun Kelly has a panic room inside of his mansion. So she remembers this and tells Noel this, and then they go to Machine Gun Kelly's house. So Machine Gun Kelly is in this movie. If I had a nickel for every time Machine Gun Kelly was in a streaming service movie I saw, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. Now, they arrive at Machine Gun Kelly's house. Noel and Katie try and convince him to let him inside to use their panic room, but they have this weird, awkward conversation. Instead of just telling them, being like, hey, I'm the Grand Lottery winner, I need to use your panic room for the rest of the day, I'll cut you into my profits of the Grand Lottery. Or just having Noel torture him to tell them how to get inside of the panic room, which is what ends up happening. They have this awkward and really cringe conversation where Machine Gun Kelly ends up thinking that Noel and Katie are trying to have like a threesome orgy kind of thing with him. And this really feels like someone thought that was really funny. Like somebody in the writer's room was like, bro, it'd be so funny if Machine Gun Kelly thought that Awkwafina and John Cena want to have a threesome. And then they forced a way to put it in the movie. And it just doesn't work. If you found this joke funny, I'm happy for you, but it didn't work for me, and it just felt really awkward and out of place. Regardless, they eventually get their way into his panic room, and they shoot him with one of John Cena's wasp stingers so that he'll be paralyzed and unconscious, and no one can get the code to get inside the panic room. And they lock themselves in as the Grand Lottery contestants show up to try and kill Katie. Now, the two of them end up having a heart-to-heart, and we learn more about Katie's backstory and why she's so distrustful of... I almost called him John Cena. I keep switching back from saying the characters' names and the actors' names because I just know a lot of these actors as the iconic actor that they are. And this isn't me saying I'm going to fix it. I'm probably still going to do it the whole video. I'm just letting you know that it's going to continue happening. Regardless, Noel and Katie have a heart-to-heart, and we learn that the reason Katie is distrustful of Noel is that she had been robbed by her father when she was younger. Her father was her manager when she was acting as a kid. However, when she turned 18, she wanted to become her own manager, and her dad didn't like that, so he stole all of the money that she ever made acting and all of the money that her mother had and abandoned them, and then her mom got sick, and then obviously we know the rest of the spiel with the mom getting sick and dying. And that's why she's distrustful of people. And Noel's like, damn, girl, that's sad. I just want to protect you because I'm a good guy and I have my own life problems to deal with, and getting 10% of what you're paying me is a lot of goddamn money. And it's like, yeah, makes sense. He's got a point. Unfortunately, Shoddy and DJ show up to Machine Gun Kelly's house and they figure out a way to wake up Machine Gun Kelly. They just drop him in his pool, which wakes him up. And would that work? Like, if someone poisoned you with something and it knocked you out, would just splashing water on your face work? I'm genuinely curious about this because I feel like it wouldn't. Unfortunately, Shoddy and DJ arrive and figure a way to wake up Machine Gun Kelly to open up the panic room, and Katie and Noel are freaking out trying to figure out what to do while they're waking him up. And Noel bites the bullet and decides to call in a favor from an old friend. And all of a sudden, everyone's phones start exploding. Not like breaking down, but literally exploding. Battery acid flying, fires going off, stuff like that. They end up escaping, and when they get outside, they meet these security guards who are like, Katie, we're here to take you to safety. Come with us. And she says she's not going anywhere without Noel. So the two of them get into the SUV. They end up leaving, and they arrive and meet the mysterious friend that Noel had called a moment earlier, that being Lewis, played by Simu Liu. And this guy is a scumbag. He is a professional bodyguard that runs a company that specializes in protecting people who win the grand lottery for a fee, obviously. And this is what his whole business practice is built off of. You see him earlier on in the movie on a billboard when Katie is entering in Los Angeles. And I thought that Katie knew the guy the way she scoffed at the poster, but I guess she was just like, yeah, sure, whatever. I get the propaganda, so, okay. And he's like, yeah, we're going to protect you. We're going to give you the fake-ass Mission Impossible mask thing, because apparently that exists in this movie, but it's worse than what it is in Mission Impossible, but we'll get to that in a second. They're like, yeah, we're going to get you all safe and situated. We're going to hide your face, hide you away, blah, 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 blah. He's making fun of Noel because they used to work together, and Noel quit and ended up doing his own thing, which, again, we'll talk about in a second. And they keep going back and forth, and Katie forces them to offer Noel a part of the money that she's going to give them for protecting her, because if Noel hadn't protected her up until the point that they came and got her, they wouldn't get any money whatsoever. And they're like, okay, fine, we'll cut Noel in. Then we get another moment of reprieve where Noel and Katie are inside of a medical room. They're getting patched up together, and Katie gets put on the fake Mission Impossible face mask thing, which makes her look like an old Asian man, which I guess this is supposed to be funny. It's not, but I guess it was supposed to be. Regardless, the two of them have a heart-to-heart, and we learn Noel's backstory. We learn that Noel and Lewis were a part of a secret mercenary black ops team, and the two of them believed that they were taking out evil people, until one day Noel found out that they were being sent to kill innocent individuals, and he decided that he's not going to do that anymore, and he banned them on their next mission, which resulted in everyone dying except for Lewis. And now the reason Noel became a grand lottery security guard is because the large sums of money that he gets from protecting these grand lottery contestants, he uses to pay back the families that he hurt as a mercenary, because, you know, he murdered their loved ones. And it's like, okay, cool. That adds a lot of depth and nicety to his character, and it gives Katie more of a reason to trust him instead of being wary of him the whole movie and begrudgingly deciding to let him save her. Then we fast forward a little bit more, and Lewis shows up. He's like, okay, Katie, we're going to move you to a safe location. And they're like, do we need to move to a safe location? This place is a fortress filled with all of your employees. This doesn't seem like a reasonable way to move me, because so far people have been banging on your door trying to get in for a while now, and they can't get inside the building, so do I really need to move anywhere right now? And he's like, oh yeah, totally, we gotta move you because it's not safe here. There's actually some points of entry that they could get into, and blah, 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 bullshit jargon. And then Katie's like, I think he's evil. And he ends up saying the thing that her dad said to her when he stole her money. I don't remember the specific line, but he says it, and then she's like, you're evil, just like my dad, and kicks Lewis in the balls. And then Katie escapes. Noel buys her time to escape. And what happens is, we learn during his whole monologue about how his security company works, Lewis's monologue, I should say, that his cars function off of AI and can drive themselves. So Katie sends all of his trucks that look identical to each other out of the place hiding inside of one of them. And then after she gets away out of the view of everyone, she hops in the driver's seat, disables the location, and starts driving to escape Los Angeles. And this works. Katie's about to escape Los Angeles, and they mention that she's got 20 minutes left, or 20 to 30 minutes left or so in the competition, and she's about to pass the finish line. And they mention on the radio that the last ping of Katie's location has already happened, which, if I'm not mistaken, it contradicts what they said, because it's supposed to ping every 15 minutes, and if she has 30 minutes left in the competition, even if the ping happened before the 30 minutes hit, or it pinged at exactly 30 minutes, it should at least have one more ping before the competition is over, but whatever, it doesn't matter. They bring up the fact that there's no more pings left for Katie's location in the competition, and that nobody knows where she is because she's on the outskirts of town. She's about to pass the end point for the grand lottery competition and be disqualified. And I'm thinking to myself, why doesn't she just stop and wait the 30 minutes and win $3.6 billion? This goes back into what I mentioned earlier about Katie being really stupid, because she's in the clear. Nobody knows where she is. So she could just hang out and wait until the competition's over and win $3.6 billion. I don't know why she doesn't do this. She's so adamant about not winning this money when she stated that she has no money. She's got no money whatsoever. She's completely broke. So I don't understand why she doesn't want this money. This is so ridiculous. It's off the walls to the point that it's seriously, what is going on? I can't talk anymore. It's so frustrating that it's making me stop talking properly. Even that didn't sound right as I said it. Regardless, Katie is incredibly stupid for not wanting to... That was my cell phone. Katie is incredibly stupid for not wanting to win this money when she's this close and can easily win it at this point. But the movie, it's like, damn. People are going to think that Katie's being stupid if we don't do something here for a big third act fight. Hey, have Lewis call her. So he contacts the car, and he's like, hey, Katie, remember Noel? I'm gonna kill him if you don't come back. Now, LA's a big place. If you're on the outskirts of LA, even if there's no traffic, I don't think you'd be able to drive from the outskirts of LA back to the city to the location that he asked her to meet her at, which is like some theater, which is most likely in the center of LA, in under 30 minutes to get murdered. But apparently it happens. You know, let's forget the fact that there's people combing the city trying to find Katie so they can win the money, you know, and the fact that there's probably people in the city that aren't participating in it, because we learned that there's tons of people not participating in the grand lottery competition. So, yeah, there's probably somebody out there just doing their normal day. But, you know, Katie makes it from the outskirts of LA back to the theater with time to spare. Damn, girl, you probably drove really fast. Now, Katie gets there. Lewis is like, I'm going to kill you. And then, you know, I'm going to get the money, and that's how this is going to go, or I'm going to kill Noel. And then Katie goes, yeah, that could happen, or I could kill myself, and nobody gets the money. And he's like, you wouldn't do that? And she's like, why not? If you're going to kill me anyway, I might as well just kill myself so that no one gets the money. And he's like, but you know. And this was all just an elaborate ploy so Katie could get close enough to knock the weapon out of his hand, and then she gets into a fight with Lewis. Well, I say fight, but she's kind of just running away from him because, you know, he's fucking Shang-Chi and can easily kill her with grand ease. So she's running away. She ended up live streaming her location online to everyone so that people would know what would happen if he tried to kill her in some foul play kind of moment. And everyone shows up knowing exactly where Katie is. They start rushing in. There's tons of people trying to kill her. She's climbing up the walls, trying to get away from everybody while Lewis is hot on her tails. And then Lewis tries to blow her up with a grenade, and he locks the grenade on himself because Katie did some weird thing that put the grenade back in his pocket or whatever, and it doesn't matter. It's convoluted. It's stupid. Katie just does some sleight of hand nonsense that puts the grenade back on him, and then she jumps off of the scaffolding they climbed up to. He blows up. Oh, yeah, right. Noel escaped from the chains that he was in and was fending off all the civilians trying to get to Katie while she's killing Lewis. So, yeah, that happens. Lewis blows up. a bunch of people who, they call them fans. They're people who just watch people playing in the grand lottery. They're essentially poor people who are like, man, I wish I could win the grand lottery myself, but like I'm not okay with actually participating in this competition. So they just watch people in the competition and root for them to win. And there were a lot of people that like Katie, so they show up and they pull out like one of those like parachute blanket things, so when she jumped off the scaffolding, she wouldn't die, which is really convenient, mind you, but whatever. So she does that, she wins, time runs out, she has $3.6 billion, and then we get a bunch of resolution scenes where they open up a self-defense studio that's also a stage fighting studio. Noel was a really big fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so he opens up a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles pizzeria, but then they immediately get sued for copyright infringement, which was actually really funny. And that's more or less the end of Jackpot. And yeah, this movie is not great. I said that at the start, but now after you've heard everything that I told you this movie has to offer, you probably also agree it's not great. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm really upset that this movie is not great because this premise is so cool. Like, imagine a world where instead of focusing on this bland-ass comedy, they focused on the action. And we told a story about an individual who has to survive in a city of madness where people are trying to kill them for the next 24 hours. You could have the most insane action sequences. One of the rules of the Grand Lottery competition is people are not allowed to use guns, so they can only use melee weapons or improvised weapons that could be projectiles. That's so cool, which is why Noel has that weird gun that shoots wasp stingers and stuff like that. There's a gun in the movie that shoots out like a drill into someone's head. Like, it's so cool. That's really interesting. If this movie focused on the action and you just had Katie be a character who's surviving, who's fighting alongside John Cena throughout this madness city, it'd be The Purge meets that movie Lottery Ticket with Bow Wow, which no one probably remembers that movie, but still, that's essentially what this movie would be, and it would have been so goddamn awesome, dude. And back to the point I made about the Grand Lottery being the winner just gets it instantly. If you would have had it be that they had to survive the entire time like I initially thought it was, imagine this unease between Awkwafina's character and John Cena. Because her whole thing about like, oh, my dad robbed me when I was 18 years old, so I don't trust people, is just like, bro, I don't care. Your dad isn't even in the movie for me to care. There's not even a flashback for me to get accommodated with this character. But if you would have had it more that they were a skeptical person because they're like, you could just want to kill me for the Grand Lottery ticket, and it being that if you kill the person, you have to survive the rest of the time with the ticket, you could have had this unease that maybe Noel is just waiting until time is almost up to kill Awkwafina so that he can get the ticket with people not having enough time to kill him. That would have been so fucking cool, dude. This movie could have been so awesome. But instead, we get poop jokes and crystal talk and not roommate but Airbnb and Shang-Chi getting blown up with a grenade because Awkwafina has sleight of hand. Damn. Yeah, that's all I gotta say about Jackpot, man. I really wish the movie was cool, but it's kind of just bland. And I appreciate you making it to the end of this video, especially for a movie that I feel like most people probably didn't even know existed or cared about in the first place. So I appreciate you watching this video all the way through, especially since I went through like an unnecessary deep dive into it. I've got more stuff coming out in the future. I'm currently working on a part 2 to my Pretty Little Liars video that I released a couple of months ago. I know a lot of you joined this channel because I made that video, so I'm sorry that it's taking so long, but I've got a lot to say, and I don't know for certain yet, but the video is going to be really long, and it might be just as long as the first one. But don't hold me to that, because it hasn't been done editing yet, so we'll see what happens once it's actually done. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about this. Stick around to see more stuff I'm going to cover in the future. I know that Agatha Show comes out in September, so I'm looking forward to checking that out and talking about that. But yeah, I'm the Innocent Villain. Remember, folks, you're innocent until proven villainous. Have an awesome day, and I'll catch y'all later.